some of our adult children have waited to get an iPhone or something like that because they feel like it's important for them that they're not like dealing with all of that, until later down the road. And then when they do, we put the safeties on them. They ask for that, and I feel like it's not. You realize that in a moment of weakness or where you're, at the split second when something comes up on the screen, when it isn't even connected to what you were searching for, it could be that quick that you see.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Thursday, May 19th. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Yesterday, we talked about how the U.S. responded to Josh Duggar's letters. And in the response, they effectively said that Josh Duggar has become so good at being not truthful that his family believes him, and that his family believes him, and that because of that, they would not be able to help him. And so that brings me to today's topic and to today's video, because Anna Duggar King did an interview yesterday with Intouch about Anna, and I saw something specifically in her interview that made me pause and stop for a minute and think about, is there something more complicated going on here with Anna than we even anticipated? So it prompted me to reach out to a source to ask them some questions about what they think about it. And then I started realizing how utterly complicated and difficult this could be for Anna, even more than what you and I are even considering. So in an interview with Intouch yesterday, Amy made a comment about how she can't reach Anna. In Amy's interview, she said this about Anna, that she has been trying to call Anna, but there's been no answer. She said, I can tag her in every Instagram post I do, and I can, send her text messages and let her know that, like, if you ever need just someone to talk to, just to come to my house. I'll make tea, I'll make coffee, and you can just sit and you can cry and you can be open and vulnerable, and we can actually you can tell me your feelings. I won't tell the world, And she said, I just don't have any way of getting a hold of her. I think that they've definitely taken some boundaries in her phone. I don't know if they're actually getting through. I have no idea, but that's what the IBLP does. And that made me think about boundaries in a phone. After I saw that, I was like, what does she mean by boundaries in a phone? And then I thought about how this past winter, when we were going through the phone reports for Josh, we noticed that a lot of the phones and the phone numbers associated with the Duggars all had the same prefix and all had like the same series. And then we talked to a source who said that there was a family plan with the Duggars that Jim Bob controlled, and that due to the family plan, he had access to a lot of the phones and their data and their messaging. And then in a interview with the IBLP, like in 2020 for their virtual family conference when they couldn't host it live, Jessa interviewed her parents about their phones and, how they help their adult kids. And Michelle and Jim Bob admitted that they place safeguards on the phones of their adult children and monitor their adult children's phones.
The number one things we've appreciated is when we do have like devices or computers, we try to put the Covenant Eyes on there because it will give us a report each day, and I can see at a glance from an email any questionable things or a site, and it gives, opens up whatever's been viewed. And so I appreciate that, but we keep the Covenant Eyes on our devices. And then we're talking with our kids because I feel like some of our adult children have waited to get an iPhone or something like that because they feel like it's important for them that they're not like dealing with all of that, until later down the road. And then when they do, we put the safeties on them. They ask for that, and I feel like it's not. You realize
and that their adult children prefer it this way. They like to be monitored. They like to have safeguards on their phone. They like to have boundaries set up on their phone. That made me think a little bit more. Okay, so they've already publicly admitted that they monitor their kids' phones. We also know that Josh Duggar, through trial, was the person controlling the Instagram account for Anna, and that he had the password, and that Anna's account is actually not just Anna's account. Anna's account is a family account. So in court, we learned that Anna Duggar's Instagram was actually Anna and Josh's Instagram, and that Josh would actually post on Instagram, and he would go on Instagram and post as Anna. I know, it's... So all those times that you thought you saw a post by Anna, they could have very well been published by Josh. And that kind of brings the creep factor up a little bit higher because we were told that Josh wasn't going to be online. We also know that through the teachings of the IBLP, women are to submit to their husbands and do whatever their husbands say. So what I did was, I was thinking also about how, like a couple weeks ago, I did a video about how a process server had tried to serve Jim Bob at his house. And when he went to the house, there was drones that came out and like literally were like monitoring them and going right at their face while they were at the property. So they have drones, they have cameras all over the property. They said it's like a very highly secure compound. Now, some of you in the comments were like, that kind of reminds me of like Scientology, where like the security isn't about letting people in, but it's making sure people can't get out. Now, nobody's insinuating that people are being held there against their will, but they are public figures. So I certainly understand the level of security they would want to have. And I also know that they are suspicious of the feds, and they might and then there's also all this heightened interest in the family due to what's going on with the case. That part of it wasn't super suspect, but then I thought, if they're so secure, I'm sure he's got cameras set up in the house. And if you remember on Counting On, or 19 Kids and Counting, Josh set up security cameras in his car dealership. So who's to say something like that hasn't been set up at the property? So what I did was I reached out to someone who knows the family, and I said, do you think that Anna's phone is being monitored? Do you think her communication with people is being monitored by the Duggars? And my source, who doesn't know for sure, said they believe, based on their own experience, that her phone is likely being monitored. That's their opinion. And they also said that knowing how Jim Bob works and how he likes to sort of control information coming in and information going out, that they wouldn't put it past Jim Bob to monitor her phone and to ensure like she's not talking to certain people or prevent certain people from communicating, or just a way for him to know what she's thinking, what she's telling people, what people are telling her. And if she's on the family plan, like most of the kids are, he can also pull records and see exactly what's happening on the different phones. And if they're using monitoring software, like whatever it is that they're putting on their phones for safeguards, theoretically he might get reports from them on what they're doing on their phone, or even like reports about messages. They said that they wouldn't put it past Jim Bob to have already set up cameras in the second house, in like the warehouse that they live in, so that the Duggars could monitor like what's happening in there. And it might have been set up before they ever even moved in. But their concern was that with how highly secure it is, with the drones, with the cameras, with all of these different factors and the security there, and Anna's phone likely being monitored, that some people aren't able to get in touch with her, which means some people could be blocked from communicating with her, or phone numbers could be blocked from actually contacting her. Amy has publicly said like she's been trying to call her and she won't respond. And here's my thought is like either Amy's phone number is blocked, or Anna could be seeing what Amy's saying publicly and might not want to talk to her, which could be the truth. Or those messages just aren't going through, because I talked to someone else who also connected to Anna, who said that they haven't been able to get in touch with her either. So she has been very reclusive and not communicative with anyone. Now, obviously, with the feds, like still sort of like with a lens around them and the sentencing hasn't even happened yet, that could be purposeful in that they don't want her to say something that could potentially hurt the case. But it also could be they don't want her to leave. They don't want her to say something that could be that she could leave. Like, I feel like even if Anna wanted to leave, and even if it's the option isn't on the table, and even if she doesn't believe in divorce, I don't know if she would even have the space to even consider leaving, given how tightly controlled that house is with information and with who lives there. I mean, think of it in this way. Jana's 32 years old and still lives on the property and thinks that she can't move out. And they've admitted to using software on phones of their adult children. The source I talked to said this, and listen, I know a lot of people watch this, and I know a lot of people of you that watch that are either friends of the Duggars or know the Duggars, suggested this, that someone who has access to Anna potentially get her a phone that is her own. Anna needs a burner phone. Someone needs to get Anna a burner phone. Someone needs to get Anna a way to communicate with people that is not being monitored by anyone. And I don't know how that could possibly happen with how tightly controlled things are. So how do you get someone a burner phone or even get to someone that you can't even get access to? That's the like $1 million question. Another thing that this source mentioned is that the letters specifically refused to mention what Josh was convicted of, and it also refused to address those issues with the court in the letters to the court about Josh. They almost just seemed to like think it wasn't even real. So again, this is my source who comes like with their own opinion. They can't say this with certainty, but they definitely know the Duggars. They said that knowing how well that they know Jim Bob, they think that the reason why the letters were written this way were not just because of the defense, but also because of the public image, and that because publicly Jim Bob is very unlikely to ever admit that his son did this. Remember how I told you a source said that Jim Bob believes he's guilty, but he will never admit it publicly? So that source said that while he believes he's guilty, he'll never allow that narrative to get out. And so the letters likely intentionally left all of that out because he doesn't want the narrative to get out that his son is guilty, and he wants the people around them to still believe in Josh's innocence. And that's how those letters were written, that these people aren't getting the truth. They're not getting the facts. They're believing what is being told to them by Josh or by Jim Bob. And that because of that, to stay in good favor with the Duggars, they're not going to go against that. And Jim Bob would never allow a letter to be submitted to the court that is actually honest about Josh being guilty. They kind of likened Jim Bob to sort of like Bill Gothard. They said Jim is sort of like Bill Gothard de facto. So when everything came out about Bill Gothard, nobody in the IBLP said things negative about Bill. And in the same breath, nobody in the IBLP is going to say anything negative about Jim Bob, and they're certainly not going to say anything negative about his son. And Jim Bob would never allow them to say anything negative about his son. So Jim Bob clearly has an agenda here. It seems that he's aiding in this defense, and he wants a certain narrative to go out that Josh is innocent, allegedly, according to my sources, and that Anna's communication and her phone could be monitored by Jim Bob so everything stays on target and that nothing deviates from that script. So if you think of it in that respect of how controlled Anna could potentially be right now, that places this in a much different category than what it would be as if, say, you just wanted to leave a marriage. If your in-laws are potentially controlling all aspects of your life down to your phone, it's not as easy as you would think to leave. That's why Anna needs resources and help to get out. And I know that there has been people that have been trying to help her or trying to get in touch with her. So, again, those of you that know her, she needs a burner phone. Anyone that knows how to get her one, find a way. She needs a way to be able to communicate. She needs access to outside lines and access to people that potentially could speak to her that are not affiliated with Jim Bob, that could help her maybe see the light, because right now that information is likely being controlled by the Duggars. according to what Amy said of boundaries on phones and according to the source that I spoke to. Again, the Duggars would probably say that's not true. They'll probably say that Anna can do and go and come as she pleases, and that of course Anna would never, be monitored in that way. But under the IBLP, she is still technically under Josh's umbrella, and with Josh's absence not available, with his absent, he's absent, Jim Bob has sort of taken over that control. And we already know how controlling Jim Bob is with his wife and his kids. So then imagine what that's like with Anna and her kids. So this makes things a little bit more difficult. Again, these are all allegations. These are all opinions of the people that have come in. Nobody is saying anything of this is actually like 100% true, but it just brings things to a completely different level. And I hope that there's a way for Anna to wake up and gain access to outside information so that she could potentially leave. Tell me what your thoughts are about all of this in the comments below. Bye, guys.